Welcome to r/slash Entitled Parents, where Karen spends the night in jail. Our next Reddit post is from Masara Kingkin. I was babysitting for a neighbor today while she worked. I had shut my door because I have some pretty private stuff in there. Well, as I was making lunch for us, I heard snickering coming from the dining room. I went inside my bedroom and I saw the kid that I was watching reading my diary. Now, I have some dark stuff in there due to my past. And this kid violated my privacy and was reading my diary. Cue a 5-minute chase around the house. I got my diary back just as their mom came back, and the conversation went something like this. Hey, so your entitled kid went into my room and took my diary. So, just lock your door. My door doesn't lock, and I really don't like them reading my diary. There's some stuff in there that's not for kids.
Well, then why are you writing it?
It's a private diary for me to vent. I have a troubled past, and writing about my feelings helps me calm down.
Well, whatever. You're just overreacting about it. It's just a diary.
And she handed me $15. At this point, I was so upset that I didn't really care that I didn't get paid properly. I had them leave, and I told her that I wouldn't babysit for her anymore. Then I just closed the door. She stood there yelling about how I'm a horrible person for not being willing to watch her kid anymore. I just went upstairs, and now I'm writing this post. Our next Reddit post is from Lemon Dynamite. So this happened last year around May. I was at a town festival with my kids, who were 6 and 7 years old at the time. My brother and my mother do not get along well. They both think they're better than everyone else and are never wrong. Since my brother turned 15, they've been at each other's throats. So I'm wandering around the carnival with my kids and their father when my phone starts going off over and over. When I answer, I hear my brother on the other line crying and begging to come stay with me. I tell him where I am, and the only way that he can come stay with me is if it's all right with our mother. He goes on to tell me that she had been drinking and busted the door to his room open to get to him. I don't know how much of this to believe because he's a bit dramatic and tends to embellish stories. I get another call while I'm on the phone with him. It's my mother, and before I answer, it goes to voicemail. So after I calm him down a bit, I hang up and call my mom to see if I can get her side of the story. Usually, the truth is somewhere in between both of their stories. Before calling her, I check my voicemail.
Listen here, young lady. You better not be even thinking about coming to get him. I will call the police and say that you kidnapped him, or that you're aiding and abetting a runaway. You will go to jail. Do not test me.
As I stand there a little shocked, I decided to call my mother and explain that I told him no and that I would only come to get him if she was completely okay with it. He may be my brother, but he's not my child. The phone call goes something like this. Hey, Mom, sorry if he or I gave you the wrong idea. I told him that I wouldn't come get him unless
I'm drinking, or if he wants to run away?
No, I told him that I wouldn't come get him unless you were okay with it.
Oh, I'm sure that's what you said. Well, I won't have to worry about it because I've already called the cops and told them about your plan to kidnap him.
Mom, I'm at the carnival with my kids, your grandkids. I'm not gonna come kidnap them. What the hell is wrong with you?
You will be arrested for this, and then you'll both learn who's in charge here.
At this point, I angrily hang up the phone. Since we're at a town-wide event, there are police officers out and about keeping the peace. So I go up to a cop that I know. He was my science teacher in high school and now he's a deputy. I ask him to please verify that I'm at the carnival in a public place and I have no intentions of kidnapping anyone. He looks confused, so I tell him my side of the story. He chuckled and agreed to stay with me to verify my whereabouts and intentions. It turns out my mother did call the cops, but they came to her house, not mine. Since she had no reason to call them, she was disorderly, and because both she and my 15-year-old brother were drunk, she was arrested. She had the audacity to call me from the jailhouse and ask me to bail her out. I just said, no, you might consider that a kidnapping. I can't take that chance, so sorry. I hope you enjoyed this post. It still angers me to this day if I think about it. My mother has since started going to Alcoholics Anonymous and is doing much better. Our next Reddit post is from Never. A long time ago, a friend of mine, Kabar, broke his left leg doing something stupid. It wasn't completely shattered, but he wasn't able to walk on it for quite a while. After some time, he got the go-ahead to drive from his doctor and got a temporary disabled parking permit for his car. At this point, he was using crutches. I went over to his place one day to hang out and play video games, and after a couple of hours, his wife called and asked how the shopping went. "What shopping?" Kabar asked. The dummy forgot that it was his turn to do the grocery shopping. So naturally, we stop playing, hop in his car, and drive to the grocery store. As we're pulling into the parking lot, he goes for the front, I assume to park in the handicap spot. But he sees a regular spot open just next to the disabled parking and resigns to simply park there instead. He says, "I'm not that disabled. A wheelchair user might need that spot." We get out of the car, and all of a sudden, this crazy lady in a car behind us starts honking and yelling.
"Hey, you can't park there. There's a disabled spot right there," she screamed.
Thinking she was confused, I said, "This is a normal parking spot. The disabled spot over there is free if you need it." Apparently, the crazy lady did not like my assumption that she was disabled.
"I'm not disabled. Your R word is."
And she pointed at my friend Kabar.
"I can see the handicap placard in your car. You have to move to the handicap spot. There aren't any other spots nearby, and I have my kids with me, and they don't want to walk that far."
Kabar looks slightly hurt by his words, but he responds, "Ma'am, yes, I do have a handicap permit, but I don't have to park in the handicap spots. I'm leaving it open in case someone with a greater disability arrives and needs to park, like someone in a wheelchair."
"That doesn't matter," she pouts. "If you have a placard, then you have to park there. It's the law."
We were getting ready to just leave her be when a cop car just happened to enter the lot, fairly close to where we were. This crazy lady starts violently honking and flashing her lights to get the cop's attention. And she does, because he flips on his lights, drives to the area, and gets out. "What the hell is going on here?" he demands.
"Officer, they're breaking the law. They're not parking in the handicap spot, but they have a handicap placard."
The officer did the same thing that I did. He assumed that she meant that we were in the handicap spot without a placard. He turned to Kabar and said, "You have a handicap placard, son?" "Yes, sir, I do, but I'm not in a handicap spot. It's a normal parking spot." The officer looks at the parking spot and confirms that it is, indeed, a normal spot. He and Kabar quickly go over the events that transpired. The cop then goes up to the crazy lady. "Ma'am, he doesn't have to park in the handicap spot just because he has a handicap placard. Now, I suggest you take your kids and leave these boys alone and go on about your day," he says, and stands there and waits for her to leave. She tries to say something, but the officer loudly says, "Have a nice day." This repeats 3 times. The crazy lady gets fed up and finally leaves, apparently without her groceries since she left the entire parking lot. We both thank the officer, and he says, "Just don't mess that leg up again." I almost wish that a wheelchair user would have come at one point to punctuate the matter, but unfortunately, that didn't happen. We got the shopping done and went home. We told the story to Kabar's wife when she got home, and she said, "That's what you get for forgetting to do the grocery shopping." Down in the comments, I'm going to read this post from Lou's uncle.
"You have a handicap placard, so you have to use the handicap parking spots."
"Okay, lady, I'll fix it." Gets in the car, takes down the placard, puts it in the glove compartment, gets out of the car, and locks it. There, I corrected my error, and crutches away into the store. Our next Reddit post is from Chewy Baka. In year 6 at our school, when I was 11, we did sexual education. This was full-on sex education with highly detailed cartoons of private parts. So consent forms were sent home to every parent via their kid to sign and give back to the school. Everyone who hadn't returned their forms would spend the lessons in the library, which is where this one kid, immature kid, spent many lessons. A few lessons in, we were learning about ejaculations, just what they were, not how to do it, and we were viewing a GIF of a cartoon showing the event. Being boys, we were immature and giggled a lot. Then we heard a scream from outside our class window. The entitled kid was standing there, looking like he was horrified. He then ran off to the front office. We didn't see the immature kid for the rest of the day. The next day, apparently, the immature kid's mother, our entitled parent, walked into the principal's office and threatened to sue him for what her kid saw. The principal said that consent forms were sent home to every kid, and that everyone participating in the program had consent to view the images, and that since immature kid hadn't brought back his consent form, he couldn't participate. The principal then asked how the immature kid knew what was happening in the lessons when he should have been in the library. The entitled parent then defended her kid, saying that he was curious. All boys are curious at his age. and then changed the subject to threatening to sue the school for doing sex education. The principal told her that this was completely legal, to just look it up, and you'd find that many schools include this in their coursework. The entitled mother threatened to sue. The principal said that it would fall on deaf ears, and the entitled mother walked out. Immature kid was later transferred to a different school, and that's the last that I heard of him. Our next Reddit post is from Caravan of Capybaras. This isn't my story, but I mentioned this subreddit to my girlfriend, and she told me this story and thought that it would go perfectly here. My girlfriend is a C4/5 quadriplegic due to a driving accident last year, and she can't move anything below her shoulders. She goes to a weekly physical therapy appointment at a clinic to try to stimulate recovery, which is where this goes down. She and her parents get there a little early, and her parents are inside talking to the doctor while she's using the voice control software on her phone to check messages. The door to the clinic slams, and out walks entitled mother and her son, a teenager wearing a Letterman jacket with his arm in a sling, apparently coming from a physical training session. So the entitled mother comes in, hauling a big bag of something for her son, along with her purse. They plunk everything down only feet away from where my girlfriend had parked her chair. My girlfriend told me the room was nearly empty, and then the entitled mother began loudly fiddling around with her large bag. She dropped her purse several times, then turned around to where my girlfriend was minding her own business.
Here, hold this for a minute.
Without waiting for a response, she just drops the purse into my girlfriend's lap and then turns away before she can react. My girlfriend can't move her arms to sweep the bag away, and she said that she was in shock. Excuse me? You can't just put your bag in my lap.
Oh, I'll just be a minute.
It doesn't matter. Just because I'm in a wheelchair, that doesn't mean that you can drop objects on me. You wouldn't do it to a random person sitting in a chair, would you?
Look, don't get politically correct with me. My son is disabled too.
Mom, I'm not disabled. I just dislocated my shoulder. Give me the bag. I'll hold it.
No, you're injured. It's fine where it is. She's not doing anything.
It doesn't matter what I'm doing. Look, take your bag or I'm going to get my parents over here.
Fine, I'm done. Was that so hard?
She smirked as she picked up her bag.
I bet it felt good to be useful, didn't it?
They walk out, and the injured kid briefly turns back and mouths sorry as they leave. My girlfriend wants it known that she's never been so frustrated with her paralysis as when it kept her from slapping the entitled mother right in her smug face. Then, beneath that, someone replies, I would have run over her foot accidentally. Well, she did that to a dude bro at school who asked a question that he had no business asking, actually. And then, when asked for the full story, OP replies, I was actually there for that story. So this was the first day that she came back to school, a few weeks into her junior year. She was showing a few curious friends about how her wheelchair works. It's called a sip and puff chair, and it's like a straw that controls the chair using the direction and strength of her breath. I only kind of understand it myself, to be honest. So this guy who barely knows her is watching and comments, lot of mouth work. Good practice for a girl like you in the bedroom, am I right? My girlfriend didn't actually respond. She just blew at an angle that ran the left front wheel of her chair over the arch of his foot. He made a big scene claiming that she broke his foot, but he was walking around fine later that day. Our next Reddit post is from My Mind is Blue and Icy. So, for some background info, I'm in my early 20s and my brother is 16. Our parents got divorced in 2014 after many, many years of physical and emotional abuse. For example, he used to hit me, pull me up by the hair, and kick me in the stomach or head. He locked me up for hours on end, and as a result, I still can't be in closed rooms or elevators. He threatened to kill us multiple times. My brother and I are both in therapy and doing a lot better now. But since my brother still lives in his hometown, he still has to see our father from time to time since they live in the same city. I've been diagnosed with CPTSD, depression, and panic disorder. I've been having severe anxiety for years, and my brother has depression as well and was suicidal for 2 years. My entitled father still continues to send letters to my brother. He doesn't know where I live, so he can't send me letters. I've blocked him everywhere, but his mail still gets into my spam folder. He wants to get in contact with us even though we don't want to. He used to threaten me that he won't pay child support for me or my brother if we don't talk to him. I had to take 2 jobs on top of studying full-time just to support myself. My mother didn't really care. My mother decided to press charges against my father last year. Yes, last year. Not when the abuse happened, not shortly after, last year. My mother and I do not get along well, but this story isn't about her. So my father decided to threaten my mother's new boyfriend because he wanted him out of the house that my father and my mother purchased together. My mother pays my father a certain amount each month because he can't live there anymore. It's some kind of, Nutzungsentschädigung. That's a German word, I do not know what that means. So my mother got it in her head that we could win a case against my father because my brother and I are both in therapy and our grandma could be a witness to the abuse. Well, in a nutshell, she got almost laughed out of the courtroom when the judge sided with my father because she didn't have any proof after all these years, and my father won the case. Now, my father decided that he wants to get custody of my brother and continues to threaten me via email. I am so done with this sorry excuse of a human being, but thanks to my mother, I'll have to see him in the court soon, so I'm stressed about that. Even after years of physical and emotional abuse, my father still thinks that he's a good person who his children should talk to, and now we're in the middle of a custody battle. That was r/Entitled Parents, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.